welcome to the family church. We have a special guest today, so keep watching, and don't surf around for dog pictures just yet.
But I love doggy pictures. Have you seen this one?
I think we've seen enough dog pictures for a while. Let's just watch today's church video. And no interrupting me for treats, okay?
Okay. Can I have a treat before we start?
Come on, let's go.
This is a reading from Romans chapter 8, verses 26 through 28. Likewise, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought, but that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words. And God, who searches the heart, knows what is the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for the saints according to the will of God. We know that all things work together for good, for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose.
A few times a year, we don't do a normal worship service. We focus on doing something in the world or for our community. Today we've got a special guest telling us her story. We've spent time this year talking about how God doesn't cause tragedies or plan everything that happens in our lives. We do believe that God has plans and ideas for our lives and wants us to make a difference in the world. God gives us opportunities to reach out and touch other people's lives. The Holy Spirit guides us, and sometimes something good can even happen out of a tragedy. Today I want to thank Gloria, Mandy's aunt, for sharing her story.
Hello, my name is Gloria, and I want to thank Mandy, my niece, for asking me to share our story. I'm going to start out by telling you the end of our story first, and share some of the reasons why, as a mom who has lost a son, has decided to advocate for Versity, also referred to as Donate Life. I feel so fortunate to have God in our lives and truly have felt him carry us through this journey. When I see other people struggle that have not felt the reward we have felt, I just want to go out, share our story, and tell them how they can smile again and feel life again while still always remembering and honoring our loved ones. These are a few examples of things we have experienced that made me do what I'm doing. At a Versity donor event to honor our loved ones and show support for their families, we ended up sitting at a table with a couple we didn't know, but after sharing our stories, I asked them if they met their daughter's recipients. And she made the comment that she hadn't reached out to them because some days she's okay and wants to, but other days she's bitter because they still have their loved one and she doesn't. That made me sad. Another story is, I have a client who was recently remarried to a gentleman who had a son pass away from injuries in a car accident and was able to be an organ donor. I asked her if he ever met his son's recipients, and she said he won't talk about it. He said it's too soon, but it has been 8 years ago. I know everyone grieves differently, and you can never rush grief, but that also made me sad. So that started my passion to promote organ donation and encouraging donor and recipient families to reach out to each other. I also realized not every story is as rewarding as ours, but if you don't try, you won't know. The rewards can be priceless. My passion and our mission to never forget our son turned into a nonprofit organization called Play for Cade. On Mother's Day weekend each year, because what else would I want to do on Mother's Day than celebrate our son's life, we host a blood drive, a youth baseball tournament, beanbag tournament, raffles, music, and it ends with a ping pong drop for the kiddos. All things our son loved to do. We raise money for scholarships, Versity, Donate Life, our hometown baseball club, and memorials in our son's name. It has also become a huge donor awareness, where we feature stories of and celebrate donors and recipients. To follow up on the gentleman who didn't want to talk about his son, who had passed away 8 years ago, since then, I asked him if he'd write his son's story to feature at our event, and he did. And he also called the donor network to find out all his son's recipients are alive and doing well. So that made me happy. Our story began when I met my husband Tom through my sister Mary, Mandy's mom. We eventually got married 5 years later. God blessed us with 2 boys, just 2 years apart, Cody and Cade. The boys were always very close growing up. Cody was always looking out for Cade, and Cade always looked up to his big brother. Don't get me wrong, they are typical boys and didn't always see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, they were best of buds. The boys played many sports together. Probably their favorite sport you'd always catch them outside practicing was baseball. They played with our hometown baseball club from the age of 7 and loved going on Sundays to watch the big league boys in our town, where most of the town came to watch and socialize. One of the qualities I always loved about our boys was they had a special place in their hearts for the elderly, and having grown up with their cousin who had Down syndrome, they learned that it didn't matter if you had any special needs or disabilities, everyone just wanted to be included and loved. We brought up our boys in a very faith-filled environment. They took their religion seriously, and sometimes I felt they taught me a few things. When they were 7 and 5, they had 3 grandparents pass away in a matter of a year. And something I'll always remember is when my dad was passing away, Cade happened to catch me in our bedroom crying. He came over by me and gave me a hug and said, "Mom, why are you crying? Grandpa is going by Jesus. He's not going to hurt no more." Which of course made me cry even harder because my 5-year-old was right. Just that simple. 3 years later, they had 2 cousins, age 11 and 22, pass away unexpectedly within 8 months. It was at that point that made me realize that God has a plan and you never are promised tomorrow. I vowed if the kids asked me to play outside or needed me for something, I didn't care what I was doing, I always tried to make it happen. Never did I imagine how precious that time and how thankful I would be of those memories. As they seemed to grow faster and older in the blink of an eye, I started to panic and realized Cody was soon turning 16 and Cade 14. I thought if we wanted to do a family vacation, we better do it soon. My husband wasn't much on board, but I believe God was pushing me to do this. 2 days after Cade turned 14, we boarded a plane to Mexico to an all-inclusive resort. We were joined by some family members. Some of the boys had their cousins to hang with, and there was definitely some amazing memories created. It was quite the amazing trip of a lifetime. Little did we know, soon our lives were going to change forever. We flew home on a Thursday night, got home about 10:30. The boys begged me to skip school the next day, but since they already missed all week, I told them they had to go. Morning came and things were a little crazy since they hadn't been there in a week and needed to make sure they had everything. Then Cody, our older son, asked if he could drive instead of me taking them since I didn't have to work that day. There was an extra car. We said sure. As the boys were running out the door, Cade was mad because his phone didn't charge. Trying not to frustrate him and hold him back, I didn't give him a hug that day, which I never let the boys leave without a hug. They left, and I remembered thinking to myself, oh, I forgot to remind them to make sure they wore their seatbelts. But I couldn't call Cade because his phone was not charged, and I didn't want to call Cody because I didn't want him to answer while he was driving. So I gave my worry to God, and I went to the bedroom to change. Within minutes, I noticed I missed my phone was ringing and came running to the kitchen where I had missed a call from Cody. My heart sank. I immediately called him back, and he was frantic and said, "Mom, I don't know what happened," and was saying, "Cade, wake up, wake up." I remember thinking, did Cade pass out, or what could have happened to Cade? I quickly figured out they must have been in an accident, and I told him he needed to hang up and call 911. You can never prepare yourself for a call like that. To hear the fear in your child, who has always looked out and protected his younger brother, not to be able to do more than call for help. I told my husband we needed to go. After digging out our truck we had tucked away in a shed from vacation, we hurried off to follow the roads they had taken. I quickly grabbed the crucifix that was hanging from my husband's rearview mirror and started praying. Then I thought, I gotta call my sister Mary to pray, because if anyone was gonna get to God, she would. I like to call her Mother Mary for various reasons. About 2 miles from our house, we came upon the accident. As we drove up, we had noticed a few people who had stopped to help. 2 of them were school moms that I had spent a ton of time with, and my kids grew up with their kids. I remember thinking, wow, how and why did they get here before us? I truly believe that God placed them there to help our boys until we could get there. In fact, one of the mom's sons typically rode to school with our boys, but because we were in Mexico, they had made other arrangements, not knowing if our boys would be back for school that Friday. We quickly jumped out of the vehicle, saw Cody and hugged him as we ran to Cade, who was lying on the road with his backpack still on his back. Clearly his head had taken the brunt of the trauma, so I just held him and prayed for him to keep breathing until medical help came. Even though those minutes we waited seemed like hours, soon help was there and we learned they were going to flight Cade to Children's Hospital Milwaukee. We quickly ran home, grabbed our overnight bag, and headed off to the hospital to see what we were in for. As we walked into the lobby at Children's, I couldn't believe my eyes. Our priest was standing there waiting for us. It took me days to find out how he would have known and beat us to the hospital. Well, I called the right person on the way to the accident. My sister went to Mass that morning and told Father, and as soon as Mass was over, he immediately headed to the hospital. He stayed with us all day and prayed and helped us talk through many horrific decisions we were faced with. Our first meeting, we were told they were shocked Cade made it to the hospital without passing because he had severe brain injury, and the only way to give him any hope for no more damage was to remove part of his skull to relieve the pressure. They also told us that there was no guarantee he would make it through surgery. What a decision. You either take a chance of even more brain damage or take a chance of less, but he could possibly die. We felt our best option was to have them do surgery to help him have the best chance for less brain injury. Meanwhile, our whole community was praying for us during the prayer vigil they had put together in a matter of hours at our church hall with all those family and friends and community members we would see at those Sunday baseball games. Our prayers were answered for now. Cade made it through surgery, and over the next 4 days, we had ups and downs while watching, hoping, praying, and grasping onto any glimmer of hope or brain activity we could. Of course, as Cade was fighting for his life, we had his big brother Cody to worry about. He, of course, was distraught and beside himself and wondering why Cade had to get hurt and not him. As a mom, I wish I could have hugged his hurt away and fixed everything, but I just remember saying to him, maybe God knew that you would be able to handle this better than Cade if it were the other way around. To this day, we will always worry about Cody, but we know that Cody has God in his heart, and fortunately he has an enormous amount of friends and coaches who were by his side then and continue to be to this day. Then on the 5th day of being at the hospital, there was some complication and Cade's brain swelling went to dangerous numbers, and we weren't sure if he had suffered any further damage. I asked the nurse what she thought, and she said, I don't think it's going to be a good day. I knew at that moment Cade had had enough. He fought as hard as he could, and it was time to let him go. If there was any chance of him waking up and breathing on his own, he would have absolutely no life as he knew it before. So I snuggled Cade close and told him that it was okay if he would go home by Jesus. As the day went on, we had several meetings in those dreaded rooms where no good news was ever given. They told us they were going to do some major testing for brain activity. But before they did that, they asked us a question we never would have dreamed would be the rainbow at the end of the most devastating journey of our life. Have you ever considered organ donation? Wow. I had always planned to be a donor myself, but never thought I'd have to make that decision for my child. Shockingly, without much hesitation, I thought to myself, yes, Cade loved helping others. He would definitely want to save someone's life. I looked at Tom, not wanting to push him into something I wasn't sure if he could handle, and he was shaking his head yes, so I knew we were both on the same page. So the rest of the day was pretty horrific as we called family to have them come to say goodbye to Cade. We anticipated we weren't going to get any good news about the testing being done, and that our miracle we had prayed for wasn't going to be answered. In time, I came to accept that God has a plan. God couldn't stop the accident from happening, and it wasn't that he didn't answer our prayer. We must trust God knows best. If Cade would have lived, he would not have been the Cade he wanted to be. So in the end, God helped Cade because now he was with Jesus and not hurting no more. The next step was to meet with the Organ Donor Network, and they went through all the paperwork with us and helped us with any questions we had. It is because of their kindness, constant communication, and care for us that I sincerely have a special place for this organization, and is the reason they are a recipient of our fundraiser, Play for Cade. Then all the testing results were back, and at approximately 5 p.m. Tuesday, March 14, 2017, Cade went home to Jesus. So next they start testing all Cade's organs and see if he officially can be an organ donor. The next few days were spent waiting to hear what organs, if any, Cade was able to donate. Soon we heard he was able to donate his heart, liver, both kidneys, and his pancreas. It was so bittersweet. Our baby was going to be a hero and save someone's life. Now came the sun after the rain to make the rainbow. We waited anxiously for letters from Cade's recipients. We had heard that his liver went to a 15-year-old girl, his kidney and pancreas went to 2 older gentlemen, and his heart went to a 4-year-old little boy. We were elated to hear this and prayed we would hear from them. We were told we may not hear for a long time though, because sometimes recipients don't know what to say to the donor family. So we waited patiently. To our surprise, only 4 months after we received a letter from a family of his liver recipient. She was the 15-year-old girl who had been on her last days, and 3 times was told she was getting a liver that fell through until she received Cade's. She was doing well. It took me a few months to write back, but I finally did, and decided to write all the recipients. We waited anxiously and checked the mail diligently. Within the next couple months, we heard back from both elderly gentlemen. One was a grandpa and could now play with his grandkids and live a normal life, and the other was a veteran who had donated his kidney to his brother earlier in life and now needed a kidney of his own and received Cade's. They were both doing well. Then in early December, I noticed a message on my Messenger account from someone I didn't know. I didn't think anything of it because I didn't open it ever if I didn't know the name. Then about 2 days later, on December 7th, after work, I was headed to a meeting but had time, so I stopped home quickly to say hi to my husband and son Cody. I glanced at the mail and I noticed a letter, and the return address was from the same name I had a message from a few days earlier. I thought, that's interesting. And then, of course, I started getting super excited, thinking maybe, just maybe, this was the letter we were waiting for. I opened it, and the first paragraph read, "I'm not even sure how to begin this letter, as you are all in my thoughts and prayers every day. So let me begin by saying I'm so sorry for the loss of your precious son. My son Grayson received Cade's heart." Well, you can only imagine, I was an absolute mess of emotions. We just received the best Christmas present ever. As you probably guessed, I did not make it to my meeting that night. I immediately went to Messenger and opened up the message which said, "Hi Gloria, you don't know me, but before I explain myself, I just want to make sure you use this account." We started communicating, found out they only lived 2 hours away, and that they had been at Children's Hospital in Milwaukee the same time we were, just 1 floor above us. We sent pictures and decided to meet in a week. Wow, we found Cade's heart. So the following Saturday, we headed to their home in Green Bay. It was so magical and amazing, and what I loved was seeing the smiles on my husband Tom and Cody's face. Smiles I felt I haven't seen in a long time. And he was a 5-year-old little boy. We didn't get to see our Cade grow up, but we get to watch this little boy grow up. To this day, almost 4 years later, we see them as much as possible and have an amazing relationship with Grayson's family. They are the most incredible, caring, appreciative, thoughtful family ever. We believe God handpicked them for us. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We want to invite you to consider donating yourself. Many of us can donate blood. The Community Blood Center takes blood and sometimes just part of the blood. They take donations all throughout the week. They have appointments at all different times, and they're very careful about our health. The Community Blood Center helps thousands of people right here in our community, and one of their locations is right near our church. We invite you to follow the link that we're going to show at the end of our video for more information about donating blood. I know some of you give plasma, and some of you even get paid to give plasma, and that's also really helpful. I have a good friend who received that plasma for years, and it helped sustain her life. We really appreciate that as well. And also, we want you to consider donating your organs and tissue. You might be surprised that people of all ages can donate. It doesn't matter if you're 18 or 81. There are parts of a body that can be used to save and improve the lives of others. We're also going to give you a link at the end here to learn more. A link to see more stories like Gloria's. And there's even a way to register to donate your organs and tissue. Sometimes we might have a sticker on our driver's license, and that does indicate our wishes, but it isn't foolproof. And if you go to this website that we're going to give you, there's an easy sign-up registry that allows you to sign up on their website, and then the information gets entered in at the DMV so that your donation requests and wishes are recorded right there. We know that there are always more people in need, and our donations do make a difference. So we want to thank you for joining us today and for considering the option to donate life.